shiur is dedicated to the memory of Rachalaya Bas Rav Chaim Tzvi. Continue our discussion about the Haggadah. I wanted to talk about the concept that the Mishnah calls Matchil Bignus Umesayim B'Shevach, or in English, begin with the negative and end with the praise. The Mishnah tells us some of the things we're supposed to say at the Seder, and it says the following: Matchil Bignus Umesayim B'Shevach. When you tell the story of our redemption from Egypt at the Seder night, you are supposed to begin with the negative and finish off with praise. This Mishnah is in Pesachim. In the Gemara, it's also in the tractate of Pesachim. Specifically, the discussion in the Gemara is in the 10th chapter, page 116, on the first side. The Gemara continues, My Bignos, what's this negative thing that we're supposed to start with? Rav Amar mitchila ovdei avodat gilulim hayu avotenu. Rav said, originally, at the beginning, our ancestors served idols. Ushmuel Amar, and Shmuel said, avadim hayinu, we were slaves. This Gemara tells us a machloket, which is, what is the negative thing that we start with? According to Rav, we start with the fact that we were initially idol worshippers. That's the negative thing we start discussing at the Seder. And according to Shmuel, we start with the fact that we were slaves. That's the negative thing that we begin at the Seder. Now, there are 4 different ways to explain this machloket. According to the first view of the Abudraham, the machloket is, what do we begin with? And in fact, he says that each of the 2 Amoraim, who are mentioned here, actually say you're not supposed to say the second one's view at all. So according to him, the first one says, all we start talking about is that we were initially idol worshippers. We don't start the discussion with talking about slaves. Yes, of course, the discussion of the slavery will come up in our discussion of the Seder, but that's not the negative thing we start with. The negative thing we start with is the fact that we served idols. And according to the second view, we're supposed to begin with the fact that we are slaves, and we don't mention the fact that we one time served idols. Now, according to another understanding of this machloket, of this argument, according to the Ritva, both Rav and Shmuel agree that we're supposed to say both. It's negative that we were slaves, it's negative that we were idol worshippers, and both are supposed to be mentioned at the Seder. Their only argument is, what do we mention first? The first one says we mention the fact that we were idol worshippers first, and the second one says we mention the fact that we were slaves first. The third view and the fourth are based on the words of the Rambam. So before I discuss them, let me read the Rambam to you. This Rambam is in Hilchot Chametz U'Matzah, the laws of Chametz and Matzah, in the section of the Rambam called Zmanim, or times. It's a section about holidays. The specific section is about the holiday of Pesach. We're in chapter 7, Halacha 4, Halacha Daled. The Rambam, V'tzarich lahatchil b'gnut u'lasayim b'shevach, and you must begin with the negative and finish with praise. Ketzad, how? Matchila mesaper, you begin and you tell, shebitchila hayu avotenu bimei terach u'mfanav kofrim v'to'in, achar ha'hebel v'rotfim achar vodazara. You begin and tell how originally our ancestors in the days of Terach is Abraham's father, and before him were kofrim. They rejected God, and they made the mistake of running after nothingness, after pointlessness, after idols. U'mesayim b'dat ha'emet, and you finish off with the true religion, shekarbanu hamakom lo, that Hashem brought us close to Him. V'ivdilanu min hatoim, and He separated us from those who make mistakes. V'karbanu liyichudo, and He brought us close to His unity. V'chein, and similarly, matchil u'modia, you begin and you tell, she'avadim hayinu leparo b'mitzrayim, that we were slaves to Pharaoh, to Paro in Egypt, v'chol hara shegmalanu, and all the evil that he did to us, u'mesayim b'nisim, and you finish off with the miracles, v'niflaot, and the wonders, shenasu lanu u'v'chayrutenu, that are done for us, and our redemption. So the Rambam mentions both, that first we say the fact that we were idol worshippers, and afterwards we say the fact that we were slaves. Now there are two ways to understand this Rambam, which again would be reflective of two other ways of understanding that Gemara and that machloket between Rav and Shmuel. According to the first way to understand the Rambam, we're actually supposed to begin with talking about the fact that we were idol worshippers, because that's the first one he mentions. Our ancestors, Terach, Abraham's father, served idols. They ran after nothingness, falsehood, idols. And then the praise that we say afterwards is that now that God brought us close to the true religion, He revealed Himself to us. He revealed the Torah to us. And again, that's the praise that comes after the negative thing of serving idols. And then the Rambam says, and afterwards you would say that